Henry, how come you are home early? I thought you would be back on Sunday.
He got pissed off at me.
The great house! This is my house. I can come and go anytime I want. I didn't give you any justification for that.
Very unnecessarily getting angry. I was asking this because you said you'd be away for the weekend.
You shut up. Outraging, get cactus. I don't want to waste my time talking to you. I get dinner for me.
I read the Times. I did not cook dinner because I have some leftover food from the morning.
Oh, I knew it. She just knew it. I knew that you spend the day sluggishly watching TV and doing nothing when I'm away. I'm away. You're such a lazy woman.
Are you saying the burst which filthy things to me? But give 15 minutes. I'll get something for you.
I gave this comfortable life to you as she's first station. You're a damn ungrateful woman.
Hi, my name's Martina. I'm a 40-year-old woman. I've been married to Henry for the last 10 years. I was raised by my mother single-handedly, so I started working after passing out of high school. Although my mother insisted that I go to college, I thought that it would be too much of a burden on her. I started working as a cashier in a local supermarket. Although the initial salary was low, I lived frugally and saved most of it. I worked very hard in my job, extended the shifts, and sometimes worked in 2 shifts during peak sales seasons. Gradually, I started looking at the accounts of the supermarket, as I had taken some finance classes from a friend. The owner of the supermarket was impressed by my hard work and dedication. After a while, I was promoted to the position of manager at the supermarket, where I took care of the inventory, accounts, and the staff. One day, a man lost his wallet at the supermarket and was yelling at one of my staff.
I kept the wallet right here. I'll be to vanish. Is there no safety in your supermarket?
Hearing the commotion, a crowd gathered near the aisle. I rushed to the spot and intervened.
Hello, sir. Slash professionals. I'm the manager of this supermarket. Please come aside. Let me help you. Quebec card is for you, brick.
Benny, yes, right away. I kept my wallet in one of these racks to pick up something. And when I turned back, I did find the wallet. It is your responsibility to help me get back my wallet.
I nodded, while he continued to rant about his lost wallet. I quickly messaged my security department to fetch the CCTV footage of the last 10 minutes of that particular ACL. I also asked them to call the local police patrol of the area.
Are you even listening to me? Are you even listening to me? I want my wallet as it is stolen at your supermarket.
Yes, sir. So present here. Julie black me. We already have captured the footage and the face of the suspect. But police will be here in a minute, and he would share the details of the suspect. Sharisha, wherever that's...
By then, the police arrived, and the security guard shared the details with the police. The police identified the person on the footage to be a local thief. They took the details of the man, and they all left. The next day, when I was just doing my usual work at the supermarket, the same guy showed up.
Hey, I've been interesting Yankee yesterday. Ow!
Oh, did you get the wallet?
Yeah, the police nabbed the thief from the other lane. Ow! He's not able to go so far.
The police said that it was due to your quick reaction in alerting the police and providing them with the CCTV footage. The thief was caught, and I got the wallet back, so thank you so much. I blushed at his kind words.
There you go, and flat me TK. I was just doing my job. I'm glad that I could help you, and not.
I'm sorry that I yelled at you yesterday. I was in a panic. I can verify that to you. I was in a panic. I am new at this place, and the wallet had my ID and credit cards.
No worries. Steve John. I'm Miss Dan Hortiction, and merrily.
Hey, may I know your name?
My name is Martina, fresh cotton cod coffee wear.
Martina, my name is Henry. I live 2 buildings away from this place. Would you remember having a coffee with me, please? I just wanted to thank you for your help.
This is how our story began. Henry shifted to that place a week ago, and then we accidentally met at the supermarket. Initially, I refused to go out with him, but then he insisted, and I went to the nearby cafe. I liked his grateful nature. Gradually, we started officially dating. After a few months, when my rental agreement expired, Henry suggested that I move in with him. Those were the best days of my life. Before we knew it, we fell in love. Henry worked at an IT company, so he had a busy schedule, but we spent our weekends partying and enjoying our life like there was no tomorrow. We dated for 2 years. One day, I was having a regular conversation with my mom over the phone, and she told me, "Martina, after your dad passed away, I dedicated my life to your upbringing."
What happened? Garm, that mom meant to you. We keep talking like this.
Honey, I'm getting old. I'm worried that if I die, you'll be left alone as you don't have anyone else to support you.
No, don't worry about me. Besides, you're not dying anytime soon.
Honey, it's time for you to think about getting married. I want to see you as a bride before dying. I got uncomfortable with this.
Well, bakit gising papes brace merbanic, shop it?
Although I shrugged her off, I got tensed. When Henry saw me tensed, he asked, "Hey, what's up? Why do you look dull?"
I've been serious and artful to become.
Hey, come on, Tommy. I told him about the conversation I had with Mom. After listening to this, he said,
I'm also thinking about the same. Let's get married. Good morning, Rust.
"Aunt, what? Are you sure about this?"
Yes, absolutely. We've got begun.
I jumped on my bed with happiness and excitement. Next, we met each other's parents and told them about our wedding plans. My mom.
I have no one in this world except her. Please take good care of her.
Don't worry. I'll love and protect her as you did.
Henry's parents were also very sweet and kind to me. We soon got married. Henry was not very keen on having a baby. He said,
I will enjoy a carefree life with you. The baby would become a liability.
but I insisted on having one, so eventually he gave up. 5 years after our marriage, my daughter, Sarah, was born, which completed our family. I was having a difficult time managing the baby and my work, so Henry suggested that I take a break from my work and focus on Sarah. Henry assured me that he earned well enough for the family to lead a decent life. I left my job to take care of Sarah in the house full-time. Henry was terrible at household work. His house was a mess before I moved in. He always blamed his busy schedule for the mess, saying,
I'm so busy with my work that I don't get time to clean the house.
So, I was the one who did the household chores, but Henry helped me whenever he was free. When I was pregnant, Henry went out of his way to take care of me. Besides, he was always grateful to me to take care of the house so well. So, I had no complaints. After I left the job, Henry gradually stopped doing anything at home. Even when I asked him to get some groceries while returning from the office, he refused.
But indeed, I'm standing by the worker. I very I'm tired. Won't you get it by yourself?
I did not complain to him because he was always polite, but eventually, his tone got rough. Now when I asked him for any help, he would rebuke me.
You're becoming lazy sitting at home.
I wonder what brought this change in his attitude. Initially, I thought that he was upset because I could not give enough time to him. I was busy taking care of my daughter. Before Sarah was born, Henry and I spent our weekends partying, trekking, and traveling to new places. We had an adventurous life. But now with the baby, I could not lead that life with Henry. I can't leave her at my friend's place so often. Whenever I turned down any party plan of Henry's, he would get upset and complain. That's why I didn't want to have a baby.
Don't act him stupid! She's our daughter, she's a show? When she grows a little older, we can get back to our lives like before.
Henry loved us, but he loved his freedom more. I told him, honey, why don't you party or go for a trek with your friends? I'll take care of Sarah. Initially, he was reluctant to do so without me, but later he started going out without me, and that's when everything changed. As he started going out alone, his attitude gradually changed towards me. He often came home late from work and was out on weekends partying with his colleagues and friends. I tried my best to keep him happy. I watched recipes for exotic meals on YouTube, took notes, and spent hours cooking them for Henry. Although he enjoyed eating those meals, he never showed any sign of appreciation. On some days, when the meal didn't turn out as expected, he would just rattle the cutlery with anger and leave the dinner midway. He started complaining about anything and everything at home. Suddenly, he started hating the meals I cooked. He pointed out faults in my cleaning, laundry, cooking, and everything else. I kept wondering to myself if this was all my mistake because I was faltering at the household chores. I told myself that Henry worked hard to give us a comfortable life, so this is the least I could do for him. But no matter what I did for him, he was never happy. He had nothing but complaints for me.
That house is a mess. Please did the mess, Christina Barhadu. Why are my quakers not ironed properly? This food tastes horrible. Adrian, the dishes are so dirty. You are clumsy these days.
I thought of divorcing Henry, but after staying with him for so many years, I was scared of living alone. I was scared that I'll not be able to take care of Sarah all by myself. My mom passed away 2 years ago, hence I had no one to go to. I could not share my problems with anyone. I felt lonely. The years passed, but Henry showed no sign of remorse. His attitude became worse with every passing day. Gradually, I lost all my love and respect for him. I wanted to move out, but I didn't want my daughter to grow up in poverty. I wasn't sure if I would be able to give her a decent life. I desperately wanted Sarah to grow up so that I could get out of this situation. Until then, I had no option but to put up with Henry's nonsense. But one day Henry crossed all his limits. He was away on a weekend trip with his friends, so I didn't prepare dinner that day. I had leftover food from lunch, which I thought to have for dinner. But he showed up out of nowhere. Hey, wait. How come you're home early? I thought you would be back on Sunday. He got upset with me.
It's my house. It's a house. I can come and go anytime I want. I don't need to give you any justification for that.
This was the tone in which he talked to me these days. Why are you unnecessarily getting angry? I was asking this because you said you'd be away for the weekend.
Hey, shut up! This is at Melrose. I don't want to waste my time talking to you. You got dinner for me. Shush, tried.
Henry, I did not cook dinner because I had some leftover food from the morning.
Oh, I knew it. I knew that you spend the day sluggishly watching TV and doing nothing when I'm away. You're such a lazy woman.
Why are you saying such filthy things to me? Give me 15 minutes. I'll cook something for you.
Don't you dare talk back to me, you clumsy woman.
Henry, what's wrong with you?
There's nothing wrong with me. Just look at my house. You've made this a filthy place. They stink everywhere. Oh, God.
The house is cluttered with Sarah's toys. Isn't it natural to have toys littered around in a house when you have kids? He went towards the kitchen and took a plate from the sink and said,
Sarah doesn't play with these plates, right? And then why is this plate lying dirty to sink? Why didn't you clean it?
I was perplexed by this. There's just one plate in the sink, and I thought of washing it after dinner. I never realized that Henry would make such a fuss out of this. Henry, it is just one plate. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? And hearing this, he rushed to the refrigerator, opened it wide, and yelled,
It's not just one plate. There's your blueprints, too.
He then took the stuff out from the fridge one by one and threw them on the floor, saying,
Out there, I'll throw all this trash away. You have made my fridge a trash bin.
I just stood there baffled. I didn't know how to react to Henry's sudden madness. He then took the leftover food and threw it into the sink. I could not control my anger. Henry, please stop this ruckus. Your house was filthy when I moved in. It was filled with empty cans, bottles, and wrappers. I cleaned it and made this place a home. I did your laundry, cooked meals for you, and did the dishes, even before we were married. I managed my work along with all these household chores.
I gave this comfortable life to you. You made a woman. As you were living in that tiny, shabby apartment.
I took pity on you and gave you shelter in my luxurious apartment. I work with the smartest woman in it, yet I married a low-qualified cashier like you. I took you to places where you could have never imagined with your meager income. He went on.
Oh, stop complaining to me. You should be grateful to me for all these favors and serve me as an obedient homemaker. I'm sure you, but
I felt humiliated. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I broke down. I could only manage to say, Henry, I thought you did all this because you were in love. I didn't realize that you were doing me any favors. Don't start your crap. Just a woman like you uses emotions to trap people. That's what you did to me. You trapped me. Saying this, he stormed out of the house and was away all night. I spent the night crying in despair, thinking about the happy days I spent with Henry. I missed my mom terribly. The next day, Henry came home, and as soon as I opened the door, he shoved the divorce papers in my face and yelled, "Just sign these papers and leave my house." I was emotionally drained and had no energy left to indulge in any further conversation with Henry. I took the papers and said, "Okay, I'll sign." He was not expecting that I would agree to a divorce without hesitance. My calmness annoyed him, and he shouted, "Good that you agreed to the divorce, else it would have made your life miserable. Now, I'll be living my life freely and peacefully." I was trapped under this whole crap of marriage. I packed my bags, and while leaving the house, I handed over an envelope to Henry. I kept it on the table in front of him and said, "I'll send the signed divorce papers after including my terms."
what you mean by your terms? You are not getting anything from me. You have been a parasite and sucked on my money for so many years. So, you made a penny from me. Speak to my lawyer in court.
He opened the envelope and was shocked to see what was inside it. The envelope had a copy of all the pieces of evidence I received from the investigating agency. Yes, I hired an agency to find out the truth behind Henry's changing attitude. The agency sent me the details of Henry's infidelity. I got the evidence that morning before Henry came home. I was shattered by the photo evidence which showed that Henry cheated on me and spent his weekends with different women, despite Henry's rude behavior. I was okay to give him another chance, but I could not bear his unfaithfulness. Hence, I accepted the divorce at once. Henry carefully checked all the evidence and said nonchalantly,
That's not serious with any of them.
I was baffled by his words. I could not control my anger. But you cheated on me. I was considerate to let you go for late-night parties and vacations without me. Instead of being grateful to me, you cheated on me.
It's all your fault. You became a potato bag after the baby. You refused to party with me outside. You didn't find your tracks.
I sacrificed those late-night parties and tricks for our daughter. I wish you realized your duties as a father, too. Saying this, I took Sarah into my arms and left the house. I checked into a hotel for a few days and called up my ex-boss, the owner of the supermarket where I worked earlier. I told him about my situation, and he was shocked to know this. He gave me a job in inventory management in the same supermarket. As I knew everyone there, it was not difficult for me to resume my work. My boss offered me temporary accommodation at an apartment that had just been vacated by his previous tenants. Meanwhile, I hired a lawyer and sent my divorce terms to Henry. The lawyer helped me demand child support and good alimony on the grounds of Henry's infidelity. Seeing the alimony amount, Henry called me several times, but I ignored his calls. He sent a voice note asking for negotiation, but I was adamant to get compensated for the damage and the trauma I had been subjected to. Henry didn't have an affair with one particular woman, but he was fooling around with a lot of women, including his colleagues and some random girls whom he met during parties or trips. He also got into the wrong company and took drugs sometimes. Maybe that was the reason for his elevated anger and frustration, which he lashed out on me. I called up Henry's parents and told them everything. They were shattered to know that Henry could do such horrible things. I also couriered some of the photos in which Henry was being cozy with his colleagues in his office. My lawyer told me that Henry is not being treated well at his office after his colleagues got to know about his affairs. His manager has even threatened him that he would be expelled from the company if he repeats the same. As the colleagues with whom he had the affairs have also left the office in shame as the photos maligned their reputation too. Henry continues to work there as he had to pay the alimony and the child support. After a few months, I got an email from Henry.
Hey, Doc Martina. I'm sorry for what I did to you. I when you were with me. I did not realize your importance. I'm grateful to you for doing everything for me.
From cleaning, laundry, dishes, and the meals you prepared for me, you made my place a home to live in. Without you, the place has again become a mess. I miss you. Although the emo made me emotional, I did not think of getting back to Henry. He missed me because I took care of him and his house. He treated me like a doormat when I was with him. My self-confidence was crushed by his ego and attitude. I don't want to go back to that life where my daughter sees me being treated like a doormat. I want to raise her in an environment where she understands the value of self-worth and self-respect. I have got an apartment from my savings and from the alimony. I'm able to lead a decent life and provide a good education to my daughter with my income and child support. Action. I wish to see my daughter grow up to be a confident and independent woman. Hi, my name is Abigail. I'm currently 35 years old, but the story I'm about to tell you took place 2 years ago when I was still married to my low-life husband. Horrid male who mistreated me constantly, and subsequently still in the presence of my horrid meal who mistreated me constantly. This is the story of how I finally grew a backbone and got my revenge. I remember that day so vividly. I was already anxious about the hosting I would have to do, as my Mile was making one of her customary visits for coffee. I was already feeling anxious, and my husband wasn't making me feel better when he said this.
Babe, I don't think that this is working.
What do you mean, honey?
Yeah, I just don't feel like you're listening to me, even after I give you the simplest instructions. This isn't gonna work. I'm so sorry.
There was silence. I was anticipating those 2 words that were going to completely shatter me into an irreparable mess. It's over. Those words were ringing in my head, over and over and over again. I was almost begging him to just outright say it, rip off the band-aid, so to speak. That's how much I was anticipating those words that would have felt like daggers.
I don't think that this tablecloth is gonna work for when my mom comes to town.
I told you to get the blue floral set, not the yellow one. Why did you ever listen to me? You know when you love someone, but you just want to strangle them. Yeah, this was me at the time, except I felt the love dissipating after every tiresome hour of living with my low-life husband. Husband had a funny way of toying with me. Some might even call it sadistic, but I just call it cruel. He would keep me on my toes, always on the edge of an anxiety attack with his empty attempts of leaving me. He would do this knowing that, unfortunately, without him, I would be nothing. I, in my early 20s, made the stupid decision to forego my dreams of becoming a cafe owner. I had it all planned out. The theme would be warm chestnut with an inviting ambiance, and the small quaint place would always smell freshly baked brownies and freshly brewed coffee. It was my dream to earn enough money to actualize this fantasy, and my husband, then boyfriend, with whom I was madly in love, was supportive of this idea. Or at least I thought he was. You see, whenever I would tell him about my passion, he would share my elated tone with me. But he would quickly follow up with some suggestions, so to speak.
Hey, yeah, that sounds great. Or we could opt for a simple lifestyle, you know?
I always dreamt of living in the suburbs and coming home to freshly cooked meals every day. We would live in a big house with 3 kids and 2 dogs, 1 big one and 1 small one, and you wouldn't have to worry about lifting a finger. All you'd have to do is take care of the house, the kids, and me, of course. God, why I ever found such a statement endearing or charming beats me. Looking back at it now, I believe that I was bamboozled, folks, tricked, and hoodwinked into believing that this man had any pure intentions when he said those words. I'll admit, my less than well-developed prefrontal cortex saw this behavior as cute. And once I heard that I was going to live a soft life in a big home with 3 kids and 2 dogs, 1 big one and 1 small one, I was sold. I loved the bakery idea with all of my heart, but I didn't realize that James was slowly chipping away at my independence and turning me into his obedient slave that would answer his every beck and call. I'm 33 now, and I realize that I married a low-life man-child who still depends on his mommy for very basic things. Speaking of his mommy, this is the story of how I killed 2 birds with 1 stone and exacted my revenge on the 2 people who made my life a living hell for about a decade. Because believe me when I say that the apple didn't fall far from the tree when it comes to James and my mother-in-law. I am so sorry. James, I completely forgot that you wanted the blue floral set. I've just been so busy trying to prepare the house for her when she comes into town. It completely slipped my mind. I'm so sorry.
Stop, whatever. It's fine. I don't expect you to know much about these things anyways. I mean, you didn't even finish college, for God's sake.
That's done. I'll admit, I was unable to finish college due to some financial reasons, and honestly, with my head full of those dreams of becoming a cafe owner, college was the least of my worries. Additionally, James had told me that finishing college was a complete waste of time since I'd be at home too busy with household duties. He said I shouldn't worry about it, and then I should just focus on being a good housewife in training, and again, I fell for his words. He just always had a way of convincing me to go along with his plan. You're right, James. I'm so sorry for everything. What can I do to make this up to you?
Well, nothing now, I guess. Just make sure everything is ready and do it quickly.
Mom will be home soon, and I don't want you to embarrass me this time around. I'm sorry, but James, I promise I won't do anything of the sort. Be seen and not heard, right? And remember, I'll be good. I promise. As you can probably tell from my responses, my self-esteem was completely shot. I had no self-love whatsoever, and I was always believing the evil insults that James and his mother would hurl at me. As you can imagine, being belittled and degraded for approximately 10 years takes a toll on the psyche. You start believing what becomes commonplace practice. That fateful day, I finished setting up the table and waited patiently to greet my mother-in-law at the door. I was scared of James, but let me tell you, I was terrified of my mother-in-law. She was just like James, except subtler, more conniving. She would manipulate you into believing she was on your side, but in the next second, she'd betray you without so much as batting an eye. Nonetheless, I stood frigid with the fakest and hugest smile plastered onto my face, representing completely the epitome of the stereotypical traditional 50s housewife. My husband wanted a pristine, robotic-like Barbie doll to serve him, and at that moment, I realized that he got exactly what he wanted. This epiphany that I had was ill-timed, as at that moment I was snapped back into reality with the shrill voice of my mother-in-law, accompanied by her long and lacquered nails snapping at me, begging for my attention and snapping me out of my trance.
I swear to God, she's deaf? This one? Where did you find her, my sweet boy?
Honestly, I don't know. But I guess I'm stuck with her.
Snickers, how unfortunate.
I quickly resumed my role as the obedient and docile slave. I mean, years of conditioning will do that to you. And I proceeded to welcome my mother-in-law into the pristine conditions of my home.
Oh, what is that pungent smell? It smells awful. Akigale, please tell me what that is.
It's just the apple pie that I've been baking for today's tea time. I tried a new recipe.
So do I.
Before I could answer, James interjected abruptly.
I think she just thinks that she could still be a baker.
Both James and my mother-in-law started cackling profusely. I was just glad that my children weren't home to see me endure this. I deliberately left them at my sister's house whenever the Wicked Witch would bless us with her presence. She would often ask to see her grandbabies, but had always come up with the excuse that they were at dance or football practice. It was during intense moments like these that I was particularly grateful for the love that I had for my children, even though I didn't have it for myself. I adored my babies, and I would never want to subject them to the cruel and harsh realities of their father and their grandmother. The reason why I was so grateful for this is that I could feel the stinging in my eyes and the hoarseness in my throat. I'm sure that my demeanor began to slip as I heard my meal say, "Are you serious about crying? Akigale, it's just some light-hearted humor. Honestly, grow up. You've 3 children, for God's sake. Imagine if they saw you right now. Pull yourself together, woman. Speaking of those angels, where are they?" "Oh, well, you know, Adams was unwell yesterday, so she moved dance practice today, and the kids couldn't miss it because the dance recital is coming up so soon." With a disgruntled sigh, she accepted the excuse and proceeded into our lavish dining room where the event would take place. Sempastady has another bullet dodge, and thank God I didn't burst into tears at that moment. Onward, Poitier. I quickly ran to the kitchen to check on my apparently disgusting pie, but when I took it out of the oven, I was enveloped by the most pleasant smell. I reveled in that sweet and succulent smell, and for a moment, I was transported to what appeared to be another dimension. I imagined what my life could have been like, running around in my small warm and inviting cafe, ringing up orders for loyal customers and newbies alike. And something funny would be happening between the patrons, and we'd all giggle in unison at their fun. And the cafe would be filled with laughter, and the sound of people click-clacking away at their computers as they find inspiration in this quaint space for whatever it is that they were writing. Maybe it was a new screenplay for the local theater, or a dark romance novel, or an article on the good news to share with the world. Unfortunately, my daydreaming season was cut short by the heavy thuds of my husband skulking into the kitchen with a face full of discontent. I just wanted to make sure everything is ready. You're taking longer than expected. Remember what I said about embarrassing me? Abigail was annoyed and irritated by his incessant need for something at all times. I responded by telling him that everything was almost ready and that he shouldn't worry. Perhaps it was the euphoria that I was feeling from my interrupted daydreaming session. I oftentimes escaped into my head when the days were getting particularly stressful. I believe it kept me sane all of those years, but I was feeling particularly brave, despite being ridiculed just moments earlier about my baking. I wanted to share something. I battled the idea in my head for some time, fighting against the urge to blurt out my desire. In a rare moment of clarity and joy, I overcame the demons that sought to muffle my voice. Just as James was leaving the kitchen to return to his mother, I blurted out, I wanted to try my new coffee recipe. The heavy footsteps stopped dead in their tracks, and my heart dropped simultaneously, realizing what I'd done. I began to berate myself mentally, verbally abusing myself to ready myself for the very real and very scary words that were about to tumble out of my husband's mouth.
I swear to God, if you mention that atrocious thing again, you will regret it. I'm going to make the coffee. Got it.
I nodded profusely, agreeing immediately. It's robotic, docile house servant mode activated. I watched him huff and puff his way outside of the kitchen, and I proceeded to bring the food and drink to the table. Upon sitting down and saying grace, my mother-in-law and James proceeded to talk the day away while I sat and ate quietly. Surprisingly enough, my mother-in-law for some reason wanted me to engage in conversation. This was surprising as she normally didn't do this. My role was to be seen and not heard, remember? But today, for some reason, she sought to strike up a conversation with me. You know, I joke a lot, Abigail, but I really would have enjoyed seeing just how your business would have blossomed. Did I just hear that? Someone pinch me because this is not real.
What? Are you being serious?
James's bewildered look was all of the confirmation I needed. My mother-in-law was indeed being serious. Yes, Abigail. I don't joke all the time. I think you could have made a name for yourself. Ayaz began to well up. This was all of the encouragement I needed. But for such a long time, my dream was snuffed out. But now there appeared to be a glimmer of hope. Honestly, it's not even too late. You could start your business. We will help you. I swear to God, I must have been hallucinating because this simply couldn't be real. Could it be that the people who have made my life miserable for the past 10 years have finally changed? Suddenly, that budding confidence and courage began to spring up again, and this time it seemed clear that I didn't need to hold back. I decided to say, actually, I was planning on serving you all a new coffee brew and recipe today. My eyes immediately darted to James, whose glare seared into my soul, but at that moment, I completely didn't care. My eyes immediately darted to James, whose glare seared into my soul, but at that moment, my mother-in-law's eyes widened with surprise.
Really? James, why didn't you tell me that she wanted to make us a nice cup of coffee?
Because she wasn't supposed to.
Nonsense. Abwadi, you must bring it at once.
Are you being serious?
Of course. I am being serious. Why would I joke about this?
Well, because we always make fun of her.
There was a pause, and my mother-in-law stared intently at James, her face turning red, and after some seconds of deep silence, she burst out laughing completely.
Oh my goodness. I almost got you there, didn't I?
Mom, what? Oh, now I see.
These two began cackling like little schoolgirls, and I was left stunned at that table, not believing what just happened to me. My head was pounding, and my heart was hurting. How could she make such a cruel and unnecessary joke? I simply couldn't take it any longer. I ran into the kitchen, barely holding myself together. In the distance, I could hear James say,
"Oh, look what you've done now. She's crying."
As much as this sounded like he cared, he said it in such a malicious and sadistic tone that I was choking up when I got to the kitchen door. I closed it behind me, heaving and sobbing while trying to regulate my breathing, but it was no use, the damage had been done. I began pacing in the kitchen. This had gone far enough. I wasn't interested in crying anymore. I was filled with absolute rage and ferocity. My anger was so hot that my tears streamed down my face in an attempt to cool the boiling heat that was rising within me. I had to do something, one thing, even if it was the smallest thing ever. I had to get my revenge. At that moment, as if it was fate, the coffee maker was done brewing the coffee, and my head snapped toward that direction. That was it. That was how he was going to get my revenge. I should also point out that my mother-in-law and James had a special china set that they would use for occasions such as these, but I was subject to using a basic mug. I saw them laid out on the kitchen counter, 2 beautiful cups, one tinted with baby pink and the other with pistachio green, next to a dull gray mug. The coffee maker was running, and from the looks of it, it looked to be almost complete. Clicking. I trudged towards the cups to begin to pour the coffee when I noticed something in my designated mug. The 2 other cups were empty, but mine had something strange in the bottom. I took a closer look, and wouldn't you know it, I saw what appeared to be chili sitting at the bottom of my mug. That's so strange. What are these chili flakes doing in my mug? I inspected the cup further, and I realized at that moment that James, and probably my mother-in-law, was trying to play a cruel trick on me. Once again, I began to seethe, wondering just when the torment would end. At the same time, however, I was relieved to have caught this beforehand. But at this point, I didn't know what to do. I could just throw out the chili flakes and drink my coffee and enjoy the look of confusion and disappointment that would be splayed across James' face, but I needed to do something more. And then it hit me. I frantically poured the contents of my cup into a pink-tinted cup and began to fill the individual cups with the ready coffee. At that moment, I heard heavy footsteps coming towards the door, almost frantically. He must have remembered that he left his stupid prank out in the open, and since I was in here, he must have thought that I would see. But he was too slow, just as he was opening the door. I finished pouring the coffee into the remaining cup.
What are you doing?
I switched around to meet a very angry-looking James, but my beaming and bright smile was juxtaposed against that. The coffee was done, so I decided to pour it into the individual mugs.
Oh, I see. Thanks, he murmured.
There was a brief silence, and it appeared, even if it was for a moment, that a look of sadness darted across James' face. Unfortunately, it was so brief that I might have imagined the whole thing because he quickly turned back into his old monstrous self and began to bellow some more.
You better not have tampered with the coffee. I told you, no one wants to try your disgusting creations. That's why my mom did that brilliant prank on you.
He began to snicker all over again, and he walked up to me to receive the tray. He grabbed it from my hands, turned around, and began to walk back towards the dining room. But he stopped at the door, and he sounded slightly panicked when he said,
Abigail, did you notice anything particularly different with the cups when they were laid out?
"Oh no, not at all. Why?"
Sounding relieved. Oh no, nothing.
I began to follow behind him, not wanting to miss the debacle that was about to ensue. My anger and sadness began to dissipate, and it was replaced with complete schadenfreude as I awaited what was about to unfold. I sat down at the table, and my mother-in-law noticed the very alarming shift from being on the verge of tears moments earlier to being somewhat chipper. My mother-in-law began to suspect me, and with a cocked eyebrow she said, "Abigail, darling, are you all right?" "Oh, I've never been better." At this point, both James and his mother were suspicious of my behavior, so I had to tone it down. James and my mother-in-law began to add sugar and salt to their respective cups, and I was waiting patiently for my turn to add sugar to my cup. I was also keeping an eye open for everyone's reaction to what was about to happen. I watched as my mother-in-law put her pink-tinted cup to her lips and let the chaos ensue. She took one big swig, big mistake, and her face re-emerged, twisting and contorting in disgust.
James, what's wrong with this coffee?
What do you mean?
It tastes awful. And what is... Oh my goodness. Rum. My goodness.
My mother-in-law's face got redder and redder. It looked like she's swelling up. Honestly, her tongue was out, panting like a dog, and she was tearing up.
Why on earth is my coffee hot?
It's coffee. Flamer. It's supposed to be hot.
No. My tongue is on fire.
My mother-in-law stood up from the table, pacing around frantically and crying about how painful it was. Some of you might call me sadistic, but honestly, I reveled in that agony. And don't worry, it wasn't too bad. Everyone needs a little spice in their lives. At this point, James gets up to try and calm his mother down, but she was gunning for the milk and glugging it all down. With both of them baffled about what just happened, I decided to take action. "Oh, James, silly me. I completely forgot. I did see something different with the mugs. I noticed that my mug had some flavor enhancers. As much as I appreciate you kindly adding them to my cup, without my permission or consent for that matter, I simply did not want them. But I thought that maybe, just maybe, your mother would enjoy them much more than I would, and so I decided to dump the contents into her cup instead. I hope you enjoy the coffee." It's my special blend. Both of them were looking at me with utter hatred and disgust.
Adley, you worthless, hopeless slime little ingrate.
Somehow, even though my mother-in-law was yelling at me and James looked like he wanted to snap my head off, I was completely fine. I think my body and spirit at that point were completely drained of any empathy and love to give to people who made it their daily mission for the past 10 years to inconvenience me and make my life miserable. It was time that I got my revenge, and honestly, it felt so good. Of course, both James and my mother-in-law were hurling insults at me, but as I mentioned, I was quite calm during all of this. I calmly stood up, headed up to my bedroom, packed an overnight bag for myself and my children, and proceeded to walk to the door. As I tried walking back downstairs to face the mess, I was reminded of just how miserable it truly looked. My mother-in-law was trying her best to soothe her sore tongue, and James was looking very afraid, a face that I've had for a long time. The irony didn't miss me, trust me. The irony didn't miss me, trust me. I approached the scene and took a deep breath. You two have made it your mission to destroy my life for the past 10 years. I endured your petty comments and downright narcissistic and manipulative behavior, but enough is enough. I have more worth in my big toe than both of you have combined. I'm officially done with you, and I'm gonna stay with my sister until I have everything figured out. And of course, I'm taking the kids. Have the day in life that you think you deserve. Goodbye. And with that, I managed to march outside of the house with my head held high, leaving the debacle behind me and subsequently tuning out the hurtful words they were spewing all the while I was gathering my things and leaving. I'll admit, during the drive to pick up my kids, I broke down. My emotions were the purest form of bittersweet. Feeling such a conflicting array of emotions was quite overwhelming. I was happy because my spirit was finally at ease. I left a very toxic household that I could no longer endure. Additionally, I was also obviously upset because the realities of the situation began to dawn on me. What if she presses charges? Is she okay? Maybe I went a bit too far, but I pushed those thoughts away. She was a grown woman, and honestly, she just needed some milk to deal with the pain. Well, you might be wondering what the aftermath looked like. Let me tell you, the way my life has been changed for the better is quite miraculous, and dare I say impossible, but every day I'm grateful for the position I'm in after that debacle. I stayed at my sister's house with the kids for a couple of nights, all the while avoiding calls from James and my mother-in-law. I was not ready to speak with them. Eventually, though, I did have to face the music, and I returned to the home that held so much pain for such a long time, and James and I sat down to have a discussion. Just as you'd expect, after figuring out what type of person James is, he proceeded to blame everything on me, saying that the reason why I was so unhappy was that I didn't get to fulfill my dream, that he snuffed by the way, and that I was taking out my frustrations unfairly on him and his mother. I, with my newfound strength, interjected, rejecting his pitiful attempts at gaslighting me into believing that I was the problem. My mother-in-law eventually emerged from a nearby room, approaching me angrily, but I calmly informed her that if she hadn't made my life a living hell, as well as birthing the literal spawn of Satan, she wouldn't have gone through what she went through. Karma is real. I would say I'm sorry, but I'm not. I do hope you find peace with yourselves and stop being such angry and vicious people. But honestly, I highly doubt anything will change. 3 months down the line, I filed for divorce. Because of the years of evidence that showcased the emotional abuse I went through, I got full custody of the kids. I started dating again, and I eventually found a genuinely kind-hearted man who treated me like a queen and treated my children like his own. It also didn't hurt that he was rich, and he was all for supporting me and my unfulfilled dreams. 2 years later, I was married to a beautiful man in an even bigger and lovely year home with my beautiful children and 3 dogs, as well as my cafe called Chestnut Nut right down the street from where we lived. I honestly couldn't be happier. The last I heard of James is that he got a DUI as well as some other small charges for disorderly conduct and inappropriate public behaviors. Let's just say that people don't want to do business with someone who has a tainted record lap, and so his businesses started crumbling. In regards to my ex-meal, I'm sure she's avoiding all chili as much as possible. Hello there. I'm Naomi and I'm 32 years old. I have a 5-year-old son named Freddie, and he is the light of my world. Yup. Unfortunately, it turns out the same cannot be said for his dad and grandma, as I have a harrowing story to tell that still sends chills down my spine to this day. I never thought that I'd have a story like this to share, but here goes. A few years ago, my husband and I went on a trip to visit his family in Canada. I was excited to see his mother, as I hadn't seen her since our wedding approximately 5 years prior, but I had no idea what was in store for me. For some reason, it appeared as though my mother-in-law wasn't able or willing to visit us. I would ask why she wouldn't come, and she'd always respond with a pressing work-related emergency that prevented her from visiting. But in 5 years of his life, my beautiful son hadn't seen his grandmother from his dad's side, and it was a worry of mine.
Mommy, when will I get to see Grandma?
I had to bite the bullet and decided that we as a family should just go up there and visit, even though it made more sense for her to travel down since the majority of the family, even the extended family, stay here in Florida. Nonetheless, I really wanted Freddie to know who his grandma was, so we made the trip. Once we arrived, we were greeted by a very grim and stern-looking Becky. Even though that was her character, a no-nonsense type of woman, it was shocking to see that she bore little to no emotion to see her grandson for the first time.
Hello, you receive there. Radiant Reds, but I'm Freddie, and I'm your grandsons.
Oh, hello, little one. Hope you had a good flight.
That's it. Was she crazy? It's like she would combust at the slightest show of affection and compassion. Freddie, being the innocent and pure ball of light and love he was confused at the rejection. He wasn't used to this type of treatment. Nonetheless, because he is loved and is a positive boy, he still maintained hope that a relationship could be formed. Hey, Mom.
Hello, son. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Let's go home. I'm freezing. Can't believe I forgot how cold Canada could get.
You should move back up here. It's better than Florida. I don't think we can. We have so much down there. It would just be impossible. But you can work remotely, right? And honestly, you shouldn't even be working. You should retire and rest. Becky, why not move down to Florida and be closer to us? And be closer to all the half-naked hooligans and miscreants. Oh, I'm fine here in May cold and cool weather.
Cold and AQL were understatements. We were practically freezing. I made sure to bundle up Freddie in as many layers as possible. He'd never really been in contact with this level of coldness in his life, so I was extremely worried. But for whatever reason, his grandma was obsessed with the cold, so much so that on the second day of our stay in Canada, she said this at the breakfast nook. Let's go for a walk. Is that, in this weather, wasn't there a forecast for a blizzard later on today?
What big blizzards? Daddy, what are you doing here?
It's a cold snowstorm that's windy and very scary.
Oh no, they very fan.
Right, very scary. I don't think we can do that.
Oh, come on. If you keep coddling that baby, he's gonna grow up to be a wuss. You have to show him the harsh nature of reality.
He's 5 years old, and it's a blizzard. Becky, I don't think that argument applies here.
Really? You want to disrespect me in my home?
No, not at all. I didn't mean to disrespect you. I'm sorry if you're offended. I just think that...
Okay, good. So we can go then?
I don't think it's a good idea.
It's to your favorite spot. At Joy. Remember behind the rock? Near the waterfall.
Really? The last time I was there, I was probably 5 years old. You see, how momentous would it be to show your son, who is the exact same age as you were all those years ago, one of your favorite spots in Canada?
Mom, you do have a point. Plus, we're two experts in Canadian weather, and we'll make sure everything is okay. So please don't worry. Naomi, we can do this.
Okay, only if you're sure, because I don't know anything about this, and obviously Freddie doesn't either. So please, let's remember to stay close. We begin our trek towards the supposed favorite spot. How someone could enjoy this cold weather this much? Maybe it's because I'm a Floridian, but I would rather skip out on the debilitating coldness of this place. Regardless, I had to make sure that Freddie was enjoying himself. The only reason why we continued to do this was that every time she saw his face, it was lit up with joy and amazement at what he was witnessing. At some point, though, I began to feel tired, and I could tell that Freddie was tired too, but he didn't want to complain because he wanted to bond as much as possible with his grandma. Along the way, we passed an old-looking cabin with puffs of smoke coming out of it.
No, it is Mabry. You ain't jumping.
Yes, sweetie, it's a cabin. Guys, is it okay if we stop and rest for a while? Perhaps the people in the cabin would be willing to house us for a while. We are in Canada, after all. You Canadians are super nice.
That's not funny, and it's actually a bit derogatory to insinuate that all of us are kind.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was making a joke. I didn't realize it was in poor taste.
Yeah. Well, it seems as though you don't know a lot of things you do are in poor taste. How rude.
We continued along the path, getting warier by the minute. I carried Freddy, and his added weight wasn't helping me in my alertness. It's off in the distance. I could see Jack and Becky moving with speed. I called out to them, telling them to slow down.
Oh, come on, you slowpokes. I'm 65, and I'm better than you two. Hurry up.
As I mentioned earlier, we don't do this often. Hurry up! You're gonna miss the best part. What? I can't hear you. Please slow down. At this point, Jack and Becky appeared to have disappeared. The snow was getting worse, and it seemed like the aforementioned snowstorm was about to hit us. All around us was just white. Freddy began to cry, and I was getting extremely worried. The cold wind howled through the seemingly empty forest, whipping snow into my eyes and stinging my skin. I held my son tightly against my chest, trying to shield him from the biting cold as we trudged through the knee-deep snow, searching for any sign of help. Hours had passed since Jack and Becky had left us stranded in the middle of nowhere, miles away from the nearest town or shelter. She had taken my husband with her, leaving me and my son to fend for ourselves in the freezing wilderness. I was furious with her and my husband, but more than that, I was terrified for my son's safety.
Mommy, my auntie, it's so closer. I only go home.
I know, my baby. I'm so sorry about all of this. I promise you, I'm gonna find help for us, okay? Don't you worry one bit.
I know, my baby. I'm so sorry about all of this. I promise you, I'm going to find help for us, okay? Don't you worry one bit.
As we stumbled through the snowdrifts, I could feel my body growing weaker by the minute. I knew that we couldn't survive out here for much longer, and finding a place for safety was the top priority. But just when I thought that all hope was lost, a faint light appeared in the distance. We stumbled towards it, half blind and half frozen, until we finally reached a small cabin from before, with its puffs of smoke still billowing in the harsh wind nestled in a clearing. With what little strength I had left, I knocked on the door as hard as I could and then slumped onto it. A kindly old couple took us in. They were so gracious as to allow us to remove our frozen clothes, have us bathe in the water they drew for us, and sit us by the fire, us with a fresh pair of clothes, and gave us hot soup and blankets to wrap ourselves in. As we huddled together in the warmth, my anger and frustration began to boil over.
How could they? I hope they freeze out there.
There are more people out there. We have to go and get them.
Oh, don't bother. It's my good-for-nothing mother-in-law and husband.
You tell a lie. Why just such an awful thing?
I knew that Becky was always like this, but Jack...
Hang on a second. Becky, that name sounds familiar. Is she the lady with a slim frame, very tight-lipped and serious all the time? Does she wear purple glasses and a mole on her upper lip?
Virtually. The very one.
She usually treks throughout these parts, but such an odd thing to do during this time when snowstorms are plentiful. As a matter of fact, I've never seen her around here during this time of the year. How peculiar. Now, sweetheart, please tell us how you know her.
I'm her daughter-in-law. We came to visit from Florida because she hadn't seen her grandchild.
I really wanted for them to bond and get to know each other, but she seemed disinterested, even after we came all this way. Freddy was nestled with me, fast asleep in my arms with a smile on his face. Thank God he made it. Thank God he was safe. How his little body survived. All of that still remains a wonder to me to this day. But the more I looked at him, the more frustrated I grew at his useless father and grandmother. How could she not come down to visit that baby? He's gorgeous. It brings tears to our eyes knowing that this happened. You see, we don't have any children of our own. We couldn't bear any children, so we decided to come out here and live on the mountaintops. It's the life that we've always wanted, but we just can't fill the missing gaps in our hearts. So to hear that someone privileged enough to have such a beautiful grandchild has chosen to be complacent is something that we cannot forgive.
Look now, I've always had a strange feeling about Becky. I've told you this. That woman is not alright in that.
I called out to them, telling them to wait for us, but they just kept going ahead. They could hear me, but they were choosing not to listen. Why would they do that?
Sometimes we don't know why people do the evil stuff they do. All we can do is do the best that we can do.
We spent the rest of the evening conversing, and as much as I was still fuming, an overwhelming sense of relief washed over me because I knew that Freddy and I were safe. Morning came, and it appeared as though the blizzard subsided. I searched various websites to find that weather reports stated that it was now safe to maneuver through the town and city. I exchanged contact information with Georgina and Harold, thanking them for all of the love and care they showed us.
There's no need to thank us. We just did the right thing. Anybody with half a heart would have done the same thing.
Just let me escort you back to your home.
Harold and Georgina accompanied us to the place of residence, and lo and behold, we found Jack and Becky sitting comfortably on the front porch as if Freddie and I weren't on death's door the day before. I got out of the car and began to lose it. What the hell is wrong with you people? How could you leave us there? You were slowing us down, and we wanted to see the frozen waterfall. Are you serious? Freddie could have died last night. Didn't you care about that? Actually,
To be fair, you could have just stayed home. If you really weren't ready to go on this adventure, then entering especially mannery.
I swear to God, at that moment, my vision turned red. I was ready to attack, kick, scream, and yell for the whole world to hear just how awful and sick these people were. Not only did they leave us out there, they appeared to have zero remorse for what they did. It was almost as if they were trying to kill us. Before I could launch a whole slew of actions, and words that couldn't be taken back, Harold held me back, telling me to compose myself as Freddie was still in the car with Georgina. Just witnessing all of this go down, it took a moment for me to compose myself as Freddie was still in the car with Georgina. But even though I calmed down, I was still aggressive and argumentative. You left us there. We could have died. Actually, don't you care about that? Don't you care that your mother tried to kill us?
Naomi, she was trying to do that. Us, look, the reason why we didn't come back for you is because we knew that you would find help and shelter. I mean, you pointed it out that cabin, right? It looks like you got the help you needed. No thanks to you or your mother. So we just betrays Redbird's patrons, or takes you music. I cannot believe what I am hearing right now.
How could you be so cold and callous to your wife? I have half a mind to come over there and knock you out.
Just try old Mason. Remember you might get Rob Bison. I died you. Keep Tom.
Enough, everyone. Don't give me a headache.
Listen, Naomi, I'm sorry that you couldn't handle a bit of the cold weather, but I swear there was no ill intention on my part.
Oh yeah, that it's Merchant. Why would you go trekking at this time of the year? We're not busy during this time, so why now?
Why now when you have a child who only wanted to bond with you? Someone could argue that this level of gross negligence was intentional. Becky, there's no way an experienced trekker like you would travel during this time. Only experts can mess around with the weather like this, but novices like Naomi and a child like Freddie. You are sick and twisted, pathetic individual.
I don't know what you're trying to insinuate, but if you're looking for a battle, I can assure you that you'll lose.
You forget that I'm a rich woman. I've access to the best of the best. Let's see how your little argument is going to go in court, old man.
You two are sick, and I never want to see you again. I hope you rot in hell.
You know what, Naomi? I don't care anymore. I don't care about putting up this front to you and everyone. So let me lay it straight for everyone to hear. I don't care about you and that baby. Honestly, I wish that both of you did die yesterday. At least this way, you'd stop pestering me about trying to meet that baby. Do I look like I care?
I made me move to her as if my body had a mind of its own. I walked up to her and slapped her. I continued to slap and kick as much as I could before being ripped off of her by both Jack and Harold.
Naomi, wait! I'll teach you an outlet from her then, and we out.
How dare I? How dare you sit there and defend this witch? She had it coming.
I'm Paterio Eel. I'll sue you. How dare you put your hands on me?
She obviously didn't mean that. Look, it seems like tensions are high right now. Well, but why don't we all take a deep breath? Let's all come inside and sort this out.
You're a weak and pathetic man, and I hope you spend the rest of your life atoning for what you did to your son.
Before Jack could respond, I spat squarely in his face before heading inside, getting both Freddie and his belongings and getting into the car with Georgina and Freddie.
Mommy! I'm Footpress Jury. I'm scared. What's happening? What's happening? Just why'd you fight Grandmom?
Sweetie, I'm so sorry. You had to see that. Things are a lot complicated here, and I don't want to lie to you, but I'm afraid you're a bit too young to understand. But for now, I'm so sorry to tell you that it seems like Grandma and Daddy don't want us.
I'm so sorry to tell you that it seems like Grandma and Daddy don't want us here. We can't be here because Daddy and Grandma aren't very nice people. And I don't want you to be around people who aren't nice. But Georgina and Harold are nice people, aren't they?
And the racist names. I love Georgina and Harold. I can Georgina and Harold be my grandma and grandpa.
Oh, bless your heart, my sweet child. You're going to make me cry. Of course. I can be your grandma. I'll always be your friend, and I promise to take care of you if you need me to.
Harold got in the car and drove us to a hotel, where we got some time to rest and recuperate. But unfortunately, the whole ordeal was just a bit much to handle. I was very fearful for the future of both Freddie and me as this meant divorce. Because of how powerful and influential Jack and Becky were, I was scared that they would end up getting custody of Freddie. I decided to talk to Georgina and Harold about it once Freddie was fast asleep. What am I going to do? I'm going to go to jail.
Nonsense! Unstable to your say. I won't press charges, it's but unfair friction.
But what if she does?
She won't because we have evidence of our conspiracy to commit murder and outside.
Hello.
We always come prepared, sweetie. We secretly recorded the whole ordeal.
Now you can take this recording with you and use it against your husband and mother-in-law in court. You guys are angels in disguise. How did you even win? So...
Shush, my child. Don't worry about all that. Just listen to the audio recording.
We sat and listened, and sure enough, the whole ordeal had indeed been recorded, including the part where I physically attacked her. Now they'll get me for physical assault. Oh God, why did I do that?
Now we listen here, my child. You did what any loving mother would have done. You're a mama bear, and you simply protected your child.
Honestly, I wish that Harold and Jack didn't stop you. I know you would have taught her a good lesson. But the thing is, if you did beat her up properly, her scars and wounds would have healed. You have to hit her where it hurts, her money. You have to sue her for everything she has, get a divorce from that man, and flee with all the money. But the recording, you could clearly hear me hitting her.
What are you talking about? Until thought about.
Just then, Harold selected the audio clip section of my attack and deleted it.
I don't hear anything of you fighting someone, and I certainly don't hear anyone threatening to take you to court.
I was overwhelmed. I was so grateful for these people. I swear that they were indeed my guardian angels. All the while ignoring calls and texts from Jack and Becky alike. I think they were trying to do some damage control. I don't know why it took them this long to realize what they did was wrong. But I didn't care. It was too late for sorries, and let me explain. When I got home, I began to construct my case against my mother-in-law and Jack. I got the best lawyer I could find with the money I had, and we presented this case. Thankfully, even though it took some time, I managed to win the lawsuit against her. She paid me a settlement of $1 million, and I was beyond shocked that I was able to get that much money out of her. It didn't help that she was sending me death threats as we were fighting this battle. As for Jack, we obviously got divorced, and because of the part that he had to play for gross negligence. He too had to pay me some money, on top of the already devised alimony and child support that he was meant to pay. With this influx of funds, I was able to restart my life. I opened a daycare near my home and began a booming business. I named it Georgina's Playhouse. I also managed to fly Georgina and Harold out to Florida to celebrate once all of the settlements were finalized. Cheers to a new life for Naomi and Freddie. I hope they prosper. Not only did I get rid of toxic cancer that was my ex-mother-in-law and ex-husband, I gained a lot of money and love from the right sources, people. Georgina and Harold are even entertaining the idea of moving down to Florida. They've been in Canada their whole lives. Maybe they needed a bit of sun and warmth for a change. Regardless, I'm very grateful for this new chapter in my life.
Guess who she's there today? A selfie with his mother. Sent a text to me. I started crying on phone.
I'm Olive, and I'm 30 years old. My husband Walter is 35, and he's been working overseas for the past year. I was left behind in our home country, working a job I hated and struggling to make ends meet. The plan was for Walter to send money back home each month to support me and our families, more specifically, his mother, Linda. Initially, the decision to financially support his mother was a decision we made together. I was more than happy to take care of Linda in his absence. I loved that woman. But soon, things took a turn for the worse. Instead of only sending her money once in a while, as was initially agreed upon, Walter started demanding that I send money to her every single month to support her. At first, even though I had slight reservations, I didn't complain about it after all. Linda was family, and I was happy to help. But as time went on, and as life and work got harder, sending money to Linda every month was becoming a challenge. When I told him that we couldn't afford to keep paying her every month, he would normally berate me, brush me off, and accuse me of being selfish and lazy. Growing up, I was always taught to be a good wife, to support my husband no matter what, and to always put my family first. But my resolve, as you can probably imagine, was slowly dissolving. I didn't care for the blatant rudeness and disrespect, but unfortunately, I wasn't the type of girl who was taught to stand up for herself and demand that I be treated the way that I deserve, with respect and kindness. So, because I was unable to send over the money for some months, Walter would find out and he would call me and shout at me, telling me how I was a terrible wife and daughter-in-law for not supporting his mother. Even though Linda was okay with not receiving money every month, understanding how hard it was to juggle life and expenses, Walter was acting like I wasn't doing the best I could. One day he even bashed me over the phone, telling me that I was useless and that I didn't care about his family. Hello, Walter.
How are you?
I'm doing so well. Walter.
Bye. What's wrong?
It's about the money you keep asking me to send to your mother.
Well, if you would just send the money on time, I wouldn't have to get angry, would I?
But I can't always send it on time. Walter, I have bills to pay and other responsibilities.
Responsibilities? What responsibilities could be more important than taking care of my mother?
I have a life too, Walter, and I can't keep living like this, always worrying about your mother's finances.
I can't believe you would say that. Bulk, you're my wife. Listen, Olive, taking care of my family should be your top priority.
And what about me? Like, Balti, don't I matter?
Of course you matter. For to me. But right now, my mother needs our help.
I need your help too. Walter, I need you to understand how I'm feeling and to support me. And that was when it hit me. My husband, the man I loved and trusted, had betrayed me. He'd put his mother's needs above mine and had made me feel like I wasn't good enough. But I wouldn't let him get away with it. I would seek revenge and make him pay for what he had done to me. As I struggled with my emotions, I couldn't help but feel a sense of betrayal. I had always supported Walter through thick and thin, but now it felt like he had turned against me. I couldn't help but wonder if he had always felt this way, if he had always put his mother's needs above mine. But as I sat there, stewing in my anger and frustration, a new feeling began to emerge. Determination. I knew that I couldn't let Walter get away with treating me this way. I needed to take action, seek revenge, and make him pay for what he had done to me. At first, I wasn't sure how to go about it. I had never been the type of person to seek revenge, plot, scheme, and manipulate those around me. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I had no choice. I needed to stand up for myself, to show Walter that he couldn't treat me this way and get away with it. And so, I began to plan. I researched ways to get back at him, to make him feel the same pain and humiliation that he had inflicted upon me. I reached out to old friends and allies, people who could help me with my quest for revenge. And slowly but surely, I began to feel a sense of purpose, of direction, that I had never felt before. Looking back on that time in my life, I can't help but feel grateful for the experience. It was a difficult and painful journey, but it taught me so much about myself, about what I was capable of, and about the importance of standing up for oneself. And now, as I prepare to enact my revenge upon Walter, I know that I am stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. As I began to plan my revenge, I knew that I couldn't do it alone. I needed allies, people who could help me in my mission to take down Walter. And so, I turned to Linda, my mother-in-law. Linda and I had always had a close relationship. She was kind, sweet, and loving, and she always appreciated everything I did for her. But I had never told her about the abuse that Walter had been inflicting upon me. I was ashamed and embarrassed, and didn't want to cause any tension between her and her son. Hello, Linda. I have something important to tell you, but it's quite hard. What is it, honey? It's about Walter. He's been treating me terribly. He's been bashing me for not sending a monthly allowance to you, and it's been taking a toll on me. I can't take it anymore. Linda's eyes widen in shock and concern. Oh, my dear, I had no idea. Why did you tell me? I was afraid that it would hurt our relationship, but now I need your help. I need allies, People who can help me take down Walter and make him pay for what he's done to me. Linda nodded, her expression firm and resolute. You have my full support? For some eyes. We will do whatever it takes to make things right. But first, I need more context. I began to relay more details about the fight that we had earlier, and as I got deeper and deeper into the story, Linda's eyes got wider and wider. I began to relay more details about the fight that we had earlier, and as I got deeper and deeper into the story, she also got quite angry to find out that my husband, Walter, was treating me in such a horrid way. She was also slightly upset with me as I didn't come to her with this information earlier. I apologized, and we cried together and consoled each other about our circumstances. As I delved deeper into the subject of verbal and emotional abuse that is happening, I realized that I had been foolish to keep it all a secret. Linda was more than happy to support me in any way she could, and she was outraged at the way Walter had been treating me. Of course, I'll help you, my dear. I am so sorry to hear that Walter has been treating you this way. You don't deserve it, and I will do anything I can to help you. We need to teach that man a lesson. For the next few weeks, Linda became my closest ally in my quest for revenge. She helped me gather information about Walter's whereabouts and habits, and she even provided me with some of the resources I would need to carry out my plan. But perhaps more importantly, Linda provided me with the emotional support that I needed to keep going. It had been so long since I got any form of emotional support that it was so refreshing and relaxing to be in this new lifestyle. She listened to me when I needed to vent, and she encouraged me to keep going when I felt like giving up. And for that, I will always be grateful. As I sit here now, waiting for the final phase of my plan to unfold, I am filled with a sense of purpose and determination. With Linda by my side and my sights set on Walter, I know that I am capable of anything. And at the time, as I thought about the look on his face when he sees what I have in store for him, I couldn't help but smile. As Linda and I continued to plan our revenge against Walter, we knew that we needed to be smart about it. We needed to come up with a plan that would make him realize the error of his ways without causing any lasting damage to our relationships. And then one day, it hit me, what if we went on vacation together, just me and Linda? We could take lots of lovely selfies and pictures and send them to Walter. It would show him that we were having a great time together, and maybe make him realize that he needed to be more loving and prioritize his marriage, as well as his love for his mother. I love that idea. Bertsons, Eyelet, let's do it. And we can make sure to take lots of pictures together to drive the point home. Whereas over the next few days, we planned our trip with meticulous detail. We researched the best resorts, the most picturesque spots, and the most delicious restaurants. We packed our bags with the perfect outfits, and we made sure to bring plenty of sunscreen and snacks. Even though we were already complaining about money, we knew that we both needed a break, and that life wasn't just about working yourself to the bone. This vacation would kill two birds with one stone. Linda and I would get closer and closer. And finally, the day of our trip arrived. She boarded the plane with excited anticipation, knowing that we were about to embark on a journey that would change everything. But more than that, I knew that Linda and I had forged an unbreakable bond through our shared experience. And no matter what happened next, I knew that I would always have her by my side. Linda and I decided to take a trip to Bali. We spent hours lounging on the beach, drinking cocktails, and eating delicious food. It was a much-needed break from the stresses of everyday life. I am so happy we could spend this time together. Thurs, thank you for taking me with you. Of course. Linda, you deserve to be spoiled every once in a while. I hope you're having a good time. I am having a wonderful time. You're such a good daughter-in-law. But you're like a second mother to me. But remember, we have to take lots of pictures to send to Walter. I want him to see how happy we are together. I want him to realize that he's being too hard on me and that he needs to be more supportive. Let's take as many pictures as we can. Yes, let's do that. We'll make sure to take pictures of us doing fun things and enjoying ourselves. And then I'll send them to him and he'll see what he's been missing out on. You're so smart. I'm sure he'll come around once he sees how happy we are together. I hope so. Linda, I do. As we sat on the beach, soaking up the sun and taking countless selfies, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. This was it. This was the revenge I had been waiting for. And as we sent our pictures to Walter, I knew that he was feeling the sting of his behavior. Sadly, this vacation had to be short-lived, considering our funds were low. As much as we wanted to stay and enjoy some more, we couldn't do that. As we returned from our vacation, I felt both anxious and excited to put my plan into action. Walter had no idea what was coming, and I couldn't wait to see his reaction. When I arrived home, I immediately set my plan in motion. I took a few more selfies with Linda, making sure to capture all the beautiful moments and the beautiful tans we got when we were on our trip. I then carefully selected the perfect photos, one where Linda and I were sitting on the beach holding hands and smiling. I knew this photo would get to Walter, and I couldn't wait to see his reaction. Are you ready to put this plan into action? Are you ready to put this plan into action, girl?
I was born ready. He needs to be humbled.
That's the spirit. Now send him those pictures. He saw it almost immediately, but there was no response. I proceeded to bombard him with many photos and videos we took on that trip, and that's when he called me.
What the hell is this? Why did you send me this picture of you and my mother? I tried to remain calm as I replied. Just Walter. I just wanted to remind you that I am your wife, and I deserve to be treated with respect.
You've been bashing me for not sending money to your mother every month, but what about me? What about our marriage? Don't I deserve some attention too?
Okay, but why are you taking pictures with my mother?
Because there is enough space for the both of us to thrive and enjoy life.
Nom, when did you get here?
I was with Olive way before we took that trip to Bali.
Bali? Do you know how expensive vacationing is?
It's ridiculous, right? I wish we stayed longer. Now you listen here. I don't like the way you've been treating Olive.
But you told her?
Of course she told me, and I'm extremely angry and disappointed with you. I didn't raise you like this. Why are you treating your wife like she's the dirt underneath your shoe, when she's the one who's holding down the fort back home? What if she just decided to up and leave and marry a wealthier man? We all know she has the looks for it.
Aye, Camille.
But here you are berating her, even though she's doing her best every single day. I told you to stop sending me allowance money months ago. I really don't need that much. When you were sending the money, I thought that you were good for it. I didn't know you two were struggling, and here you are making it worse for your wife when you need to be supporting her. Now you better apologize for all of the stress you put her through instead of shouting at her and berating her for no good reason. Why don't you put that same energy into working harder so that you can have more money? Walter was silent for a few moments. This was the first time I saw him stunned and completely speechless. And then something more shocking came about. He started to cry. Linda and I kept silent as we heard him sob over the phone.
I'm so sorry. Olive, I didn't realize how much I was neglecting you. I've been so focused on my mother's needs that I forgot completely about yours. Please forgive me.
I understand you, Walter, and honestly, your mother is right. If someone else was in my shoes, they probably would have left you by now, but I've stuck beside you through thick and thin. I'm afraid I won't allow you to abuse me anymore. You have to be kinder, and you have to be more lenient.
I'm afraid I won't allow you to abuse me anymore. You have to be kinder, and you have to be more lenient.
I understand. Olive, I promise that my behavior will change. I will never take you for granted ever again.
We cut the call, and Linda expressed how proud she was of me for standing up for myself like that. Honestly, I was shocked myself too with the way that I stood up for myself. As the weeks turned into months, the resolution of our confrontation continued to unfold. Walter made a sincere effort to mend our relationship and prove his commitment to change. He started by actively participating in our conversations, asking about my day and expressing genuine interest in my thoughts and feelings. It was as if a new level of understanding had blossomed between us. We embarked on a journey of rediscovery, taking the time to communicate openly and honestly about our needs and desires. We attended couples therapy together, where we learned valuable tools to strengthen our bond and cultivate a healthier dynamic. The therapy sessions provided a safe space for us to address past wounds and heal together. In the process, I also shared with Walter the emotional toll his expectations regarding his mother's financial support had taken on me. He genuinely listened and expressed regret for the pressure he had unknowingly placed upon me. Together, we established clearer boundaries and found a compromise that balanced our responsibilities to both our families and our well-being. The resolution of our conflict had a ripple effect on those around us. Linda, who had been unaware of the extent of our struggles, witnessed the transformation in our relationship with joy and relief. She praised our efforts to rebuild our connection and was grateful for the newfound harmony in our lives. I know you two will be all right. You just hit a rough patch in the road. But I'm glad that this situation managed to bring us closer together as mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. There aren't enough of those healthy relationship dynamics, so going on that trip together was beautiful for us. Thanks once again. Great successfulations. It was my pleasure. Thank you for helping me out. Our journey wasn't without its challenges, and there were times when doubts crept in, lingering insecurities, and the remnants of past grievances occasionally resurfaced, threatening to cast shadows over our progress. However, through open communication and a shared commitment to growth, we faced these challenges head-on, ensuring that they didn't hinder our newfound happiness. As time went on, the resolution brought a sense of closure and healing. The wounds caused by our previous conflicts slowly faded, replaced by a deeper understanding and appreciation for one another. We learned from our mistakes and vowed never to take each other for granted again. The experience taught me the importance of standing up for oneself and demanding the respect and love we all deserve in a relationship. It also emphasized the power of forgiveness and the potential for growth and transformation within even the most broken of connections. In the end, our resolution wasn't solely just about revenge or proving a point. It was about rekindling the love that had initially brought us together. It was a testament to the resilience of love and the transformative power of self-reflection and personal growth. And as we moved forward together, we did so with a renewed sense of hope and a commitment to nurturing our marriage, cherishing the lessons learned along the way. I knew that my plan had worked. I finally gotten through to Walter and made him see the error of his ways. From that day on, he started to prioritize our marriage, and we were happier than ever before. Looking back on it now, I realized that my revenge was not about hurting Walter. It was about making him understand how his actions were affecting me and our marriage. And in the end, it all worked out. Hello everyone, my name is Margaret, and I'm a 50-year-old woman. I have a very compelling and cautionary tale to share with you, and perhaps someone can learn a thing or two from my experiences. I've been through a lot, but I'm so grateful for where I'm at right now. Growing up in a poverty-stricken community, education was a luxury I couldn't afford. My days were filled with caring for my younger siblings and cousins as my parents battled addiction. Reading and writing became secondary concerns when survival took precedence. But I never let my circumstances define me, and I strived to give my children a better life, even if I couldn't fully access it myself. Then my son, James, was academically gifted and determined to break the cycle of poverty. He met Whitney, a woman from a world of luxury and privilege. From the moment she entered our lives, it was evident that Whitney relished flaunting her wealth and making condescending remarks about my humble background. I enjoyed her classist comments, believing that kindness and patience could bridge the gap between us someday. However, Whitney's insults grew increasingly personal and hurtful over time. She would mock my lack of literacy, belittling me in front of family and friends, using it as a weapon to assert her superiority. It was especially hard to deal with, considering that James was away on a business trip for a year, leaving her and me in the same company. This subsequently meant that she could properly beat me down without him berating her for doing such an awful thing. Each time she was confronted by James, she would feign innocence, and each time I was abused. I swallowed my pride, unwilling to stoop to her level. I always made the excuse that because she was still quite young, she didn't know any better. But there came a moment when I couldn't bear the humiliation any longer and decided it was time to take matters into my own hands. Whitney's malicious intentions became clear one fateful day when she approached me, seemingly seeking assistance with a work project. Hopeful that she was finally extending an olive branch and attempting to build a bond between us, I eagerly agreed to lend a hand. Little did I know it was all a ploy to set me up for humiliation. As I sat down with Whitney, determined to help her to the best of my abilities, she appeared to be amused by my struggles. Her snickers and giggles grated on my nerves, but I pressed on, believing that this was a chance for us to bridge the gap between us. However, Whitney's laughter intensified until it erupted into a full-blown mockery. Attentated, Whitney, is something wrong?
This is piecing ya, your fits of laughter. Oh, Margaret, you're utterly clueless, aren't you? I set you up to fail, just for my amusement.
I knew you couldn't help me with this project. I just needed to de-stress with a good laugh. But I didn't know that your illiteracy was this bad. How did you even name your children with a brain like that? Atrians, the shock and hurt washed over me as the realization dawned that Whitney's intention all along was to humiliate me. At that moment, I made a quick decision to reach for my phone and discreetly press the record button, uncertain of what would unfold. I I wanted to capture any further hurtful words as evidence and perhaps share it with my son, Big James, so you could see the truth behind Whitney's facade. I mean, what would make you possibly think that I needed your help with anything? Especially with this literature review? Honestly, I opted to remain silent yet again, and this amused her even more.
So you can't even respond? How pathetic. Oh, you're lucky you gave birth to a smart son. Otherwise, where would you be in this life?
Still, I just sat there in silence.
Patrol and have frustrated Uff. Why aren't you responding? This isn't any fun if you don't care. First and talk to answer me? Why so stupid?
It took every fiber of my being to not get up and smack some sense into that girl. Where I grew up, you would never speak to your elders that way, but she seemed to not care about things like that. She just cared about who could help her level up in life. Everyone else was just a doormat.
Oh, whatever. I guess. I'd have to prepare for my upcoming work function anyways.
Something that someone like you wouldn't be able to appreciate, what with your inability to read. It's an elite event. All of the greatest people in journalism and literature will be there. I'd invite you, but I'm afraid you'd be too confused to participate in anything. You'd just slow me down. It's a wonder how James was able to escape the same fate as you, huh? Now this girl was just asking for it. But still, somehow, I remained firm in my silence, not giving her any power whatsoever. She eventually left the room, huffing and puffing because I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of being hurt. She was definitely sick in the head for being this sadistic. Be unbeknownst to Whitney, that recording would become a valuable tool for seeking revenge. It held the key to exposing her true character and setting in motion a plan that would shake her whole world. Once Whitney had mentioned that upcoming work function, a mischievous idea took root in my mind. I plotted to crash that very function, armed with the recorded evidence of her cruelty. My intention was not to stoop to her level or seek revenge out of spite, but rather to simply shed light on the darkness that had overshadowed my interactions with her. It was time for Whitney's true colors to be unveiled, not just to me and my family, but to her colleagues and associates as well. I was going to turn her whole world upside down. The anticipation leading up to that evening was nerve-wracking, yet I felt a sense of determination coursing through my veins. With the recording safely stored on my phone, I knew I had the power to bring about a moment of reckoning. Before that night, I searched for everything I needed to know to be able to attend such a fancy event. Whitney was right. A lot of societites and great minds would be at this function. I was a bit nervous considering my background, but this would mean that the revenge I would get would be even sweeter. I readied myself, put on my best outfit, and walked out of my house to attend this event. Once I got inside the function, I was greeted with bright lights and flashy people. These people were fancy. Everything here looked so expensive. I was definitely feeling a bit out of place. But I was on a mission, and I was determined to do something to put this Whitney girl in her place. Suddenly, I felt a strong grip on my shoulder, forcing me to whisk myself around.
What on earth are you doing here? Are you being serious right now?
Don't make me laugh. Margaret, when I mentioned this event, it was not an invitation. Mr. Potts, now get out of here before you embarrass me. My boss is here, and she's keeping a close eye on me. I don't need you messing anything up for me. I swear to— Oh! Whitney's surprise led me to follow her eyes to a beautiful woman making her way towards us. She was a woman who carried herself well, and you could tell that she was a very prominent figure in her field because we weren't the only people looking at her. It seemed like the whole room seemed to follow her. She was magnificent.
That's Harriet. She's my boss. When she gets here, do what you do best and shut your trap, okay? I don't need you embarrassing me.
Why, hello, Whitney. How are you?
I'm doing quite well, thanks. And yourself. Thank you so much once again for the esteemed opportunity to be part of this project. I'm truly humbled by—
Oh, I'm sorry. I believe we haven't met. My name is Harriet and you are.
Oh man, I am nobody. I'm just Whitney's mother-in-law, that's all.
Ah, lovely. A pleasure to meet your acquaintance.
The pleasure's all mine.
Oh, please don't mind her. Harriet. She was just leaving.
But why? The party just got started.
Wow, you're right. And I never get to attend functions like this. I think I'll stay. Whitney, I've changed my mind. Is that all right?
Oh, that's perfectly fine. Margaret, stay as long as you'd like.
Whitney, I'm going to need to talk to you later, so find me when the event is almost finished, alright?
You got it, boss.
Harriet walked away to meet and greet more people. I was simply impressed with her and her demeanor. But right next to me was a seething cockroach waiting to berate me.
Aboliterans. I told you to get out of here, and I told you to be silent. But you just can't resist embarrassing me, can you?
So you expected me to keep quiet when she was talking to me directly? Are you crazy?
Oh, whatever. Just go home.
I'm staying. Like slightly taken aback by my assertiveness, Whitney left me alone. She stormed off to a dark corner somewhere. I chose to enjoy my time instead of being defeated by Whitney's words. I wandered around the function, appreciating the various works of literature and journalism that were presented before me. Although I wasn't doing too well with the reading from the atmosphere of the various stalls and exhibits, I could connect with the vibes and the ambience of the stories before me. There were some powerful pieces about African and indigenous literature, and it was really beautiful to behold. But after some time, I grew bored of my surroundings. There was only so much I could achieve considering my lack of literacy skills. I stood around, not really sure what to do next, until I felt someone calling my name. I whipped my head around to find Harriet behind me.
Margaret, come out.
Oh, hello, Harriet. How are you?
I'm doing well. The event is going swimmingly. I just saw you wandering around and I wanted to make sure you're alright.
Yes, ma'am. I'm doing fine. Well, it's just that, you see. Oh my goodness. I'm so embarrassed to even admit this, but I can't read all that well.
Oh, do you have eye problems?
No, it's not that. I just never learned properly. I didn't grow up in the best circumstances, and I couldn't learn. Then I got older, and I felt like the opportunity missed me.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Margaret, Whitney didn't tell me anything.
Yes, well, I'm not surprised.
I hope you won't mind me asking, but what are you doing here if you can't read and write all that well?
Well, I'm here to reveal some information that I think you might be interested in knowing.
Oh.
Yes, it's about Whitney.
Oh, follow me to a quieter place.
All right. I followed her to a secluded area on a different floor of the building. I then began to divulge the information about Whitney and her wicked ways. I told her how she mistreated me so often due to my illiteracy, and that I had a recording of her disparaging me. If I'm being honest, ma'am, I came here because I wanted people to know the real Whitney. I think she's awful, and she can do some real damage to people's emotions. Zolk styles. I felt it best to at least present the evidence so that you as her superior would do what's best for you and this company.
No, this is a lot. Please show me the recording.
I played the recording that I took on my phone, and Harriet was gasping with disbelief at everything that Whitney was saying.
This is horrible. Why would she say those things?
That's just the type of person she is, ma'am. She's always talking down on people who are beneath her.
This is truly appalling behavior. I'm honestly shocked. Come with me.
Where are we going?
To teach that bride a lesson. You know, she's always had this air of arrogance on her. She was always acting as if she knew better than anyone else just because she comes from a powerful and wealthy family. But she's not that great. I'm so glad that someone else noticed. I knew she was a spoiled brat, but I didn't know that it was this bad. Honestly, hearing this information makes me sick to my stomach, so we're gonna teach her a lesson.
But I didn't know that it was this bad, and honestly, hearing this information makes me sick to my stomach, so we're going to teach her a lesson. We made it back to the main event, and Harriet took me to the media booth, where a guy was handling the slideshows. She explained to him that there was something important to say, and that I needed to connect my phone to the speakers. Wait, Harriet, you don't intend that I would be the one exposing her here in front of all these people?
That's exactly what I want you to do.
I simply couldn't. I told you earlier. I'm a nobody. I can't do this.
That girl has been walking all over you for God knows how long. This is your moment to take your power back.
But what about your event? Won't people be disappointed with such a dramatic display?
Offended? They'll be elated to know that we're the type of company that weeds out the bad guys and only brings on the good guys. This will be good press.
The events that unfolded at the function were nothing short of dramatic. Touching my phone tightly, I took the stage and grabbed the mic. People began to pay attention, and somewhere off in the distance, I saw raging eyes looking at me. Whitney was looking absolutely bewildered, and she began to make her way to the stage, but I was determined to seize this opportunity. Attention. May I please have everyone's attention, please? Thank you. You all don't know me, and you don't need to know me for what I'm about to say. You just need to know that as much as this is an event that celebrates reading and writing, I hope you also know that there is a significant population in this country who don't know how to read and write. And oftentimes we use these abilities to determine someone's intellect, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Recently, I encountered someone who made me feel inferior due to my inability to properly read and write. In fact, this abuse has been going on for a long while, but I've decided to stand up against this and expose this person for the vile individual they truly are. Whitney was making her way closer and closer to the stage. I smirked and maintained eye contact with her as I hit play on my phone to expose her awful words before the whole function. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence as Whitney's cruel laughter echoed through the speakers, exposing her true nature. Whispers and gasps rippled all through the crowd, and as I looked around, I noticed the shocked expressions on the faces of her colleagues and superiors. Whitney, who was practically at the front of the stage now, was red with embarrassment. She, too, was whipping her head around to see the reactions of people. The veil of sophistication and professionalism that Whitney had so carefully woven around herself was torn apart, revealing her true ugly and savage-like nature.
This person is none other than Whitney Thatcher, the woman you see right in front of me.
She's my daughter-in-law, and this is how she talks to me consistently. More gasps and whispers were circulating the space, except this time they were more ferocious. Everyone was looking at Whitney with disgust.
Etcha cares, I can explain.
I'm afraid that won't be necessary. I always knew that because you were a Nepo baby. You were bound to be spoiled and entitled, maybe even a little bit sassy, but downright evil. That's really low. Whitney.
Harriet got another mic and began her spiel, folks. Margaret has raised an important point tonight that we must treat everyone with kindness and respect regardless of where they come from and what they know. This is certainly the energy and attitude that we at Nimbus Inc. promote with fervor and purity. But unfortunately, it appears as though a member of our herd has not been upholding these standards. As such, Whitney Thatcher, you are fired from this company. The whole room erupted. Some people were cheering, others were still gasping with disbelief, and others still were taking pictures and videos of the whole debacle. Whitney was gobsmacked, and she looked at me with murderous intent.
Also, you should probably know that you are going to get another job tonight, the one you always wanted.
You mean I'm going to become chief editor?
Well, not anymore. After finding out what we just found out, you won't even be able to apply for another journalism job again.
You'll be hearing from my father and my lawyer. You'll all be sorry.
Whitney stomped out, and as she was walking out, people were booing and hissing at her. The night ended with many people approaching me and congratulating me on the speech I did, commending me for being strong. Harriet approached me as the night was wrapping up and said, "You know, I've been looking for some inspiration lately. I've been wanting to write a book on a topic I haven't tackled before, and I think that I've found my inspiration. You've got such a powerful voice and a powerful story to tell, and I would hate for that to go to waste." What are you saying?
I'm saying that I want you to be part of my team. You'll be able to see and experience things that you've never experienced before, because I want to write a book about you.
Right, Superior. And about me? Throw me in. I jumped on board this opportunity with haste, and Harriet and I became best of friends. She wrote a book about me, and it garnered a lot of success. The book was about my struggles growing up and taking care of everyone around me. Although I was labeled by society as an infidel, I was more than capable and intellectual because I had experienced the real test of life. I went on many book tours, interviews, and podcasts discussing the overnight success of the book. Life was certainly getting better for me, and what's more, I started learning how to read and write. Just reports, I was ashamed that a grown woman like me wasn't able to do it, but I learned that there is no shame in not knowing. How else do we grow as humans if not through trial and error? I quickly accelerated in my classes, and it's the reason why I'm able to write this story today. As for Whitney, she reaped what she had sown, losing not just one but 2 jobs in a single day. She faced the consequences of her actions, and while it may have been a painful lesson for her, it also served as an opportunity for growth and self-reflection. I don't know where she is now because after her debacle gained national notoriety. James had opted to get a divorce from her, finally being sick and tired of her abuse towards me and other people that she stepped on just because she felt like she could. I don't know where she is today, but I do hope that she has learned her lesson. For me, the journey towards bettering myself continues every day. I have gained recognition from my past, and now I can live a lavish and luxurious life thanks to the practice of being humble and patient. So anyone who's enduring or suffering any abuse, I promise you, it does get better. You have to keep fighting. And when your opportunity for a way out and a way up presents itself, you need to grab it with all of your might because you don't know where you might end up, but it's definitely going to be a blessing.